Hello crafters! I thought I would do a little video for you to show you how you can foil your reflections or your charisma, so your printed image artwork that has a cutting file that works perfectly with it. So when we bring you the, I'm just going to think that you're looking for two red robins. When we bring you the two red robins SVG USBs, one of the folders is detailed cuts. And I don't tend to use that for cutting the shapes out, because when you have a die, the beveled edge, the blade isn't sharp, it's kind of beveled at the top. So when you run it through a die cutting machine, the force of the rollers on that beveled edge, if you like, push the card into itself. And that's why you get that almost like embossed look. When you cut something out with detail in it on a ScanNCut or a digital cutting machine, it gives you it's a straight blade. So as you start to manipulate that shape, you see the white core of the paper that you've printed off on. And I don't personally, and this is just my personal opinion, it doesn't look as professional, but it's, you know, people love it. Absolutely, you do you. But we can use the detailed file to draw as well. So we could draw with a pen if we wanted to, but we can also draw with a glue pen. And Brother do an official foiling kit. So it comes with some images that you can use in Canvas Workspace. It comes with a glue pen. I think it might come with two glue pens, but I might be wrong, it might be one. And it comes with a piece of foil, and it comes with a proper holder for the glue pen and a little burnishing tool and a plastic sheet that goes over while it's burnishing. However, you can also do it with your universal pen holder, and there are two different versions. This is the original universal pen holder. It has a grey label on with white writing. And this is the smaller pen universal pen holder, which has a white label with black writing on it. So if I lift them both up, you've got one that's wider for bigger pens and one that's narrower for thinner pens. Now you can tape the pen and make it fit in the wider one, but it's a little bit more secure if you use a smaller one, and that's the one that we're going to work with today because the glue pen fits in there perfectly. And this glue pen, the one that I've got is white. They come with blue in them as well. And they have, the important bit is they have these numbers 1 to 4. And this denotes the level of the glue that's in your pen. And your machine will ask you for that if you're using it as a foiling pen. Now, I'll show you both things because it's a different, slightly different journey. It's a slightly different screen. So I'm going to show you both ways. So I have got a USB in the side of my ScanNCut. This is the SDX 1200. And I'm going to just recall that file. It will be different to if you've bought the official full USB, the Summer's Glance from Two Red Robins. This is just a working USB for me. So I'm going to retrieve data from the USB, and I'm going to find the detail file that I saved to my machine. So I'm just going to scroll back down because I think it's this one here. So this is the file, and I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to group it together because you'll see when I do this, that's the outside edge. So that's like the reflection cut that you would use if you were just cutting around the outside edge. And then if I do that, that's the detail lines. Okay, so I'm going to group it together for now because we need to move it to be able to line it up over the scanned reflection. So we're going to multiple select everything that's on the mat, press OK, go to Object Edit and group it together. And we're now going to scan in our printed reflection. So I've got Crown and Glory, the lupins, and it's the original size. And I've printed it at 100% or actual size on your print settings. That's important. So I'm going to load this in. I'm actually just going to put the correct blade into my SDX. And the reason it had an original blade in from the CM machine in my SDX is because when it's doing perforation lines, it's quicker. So that's just another little tip for you as well. It doesn't make it an auto blade, but it is quicker. And it's just the way it cuts the line. The SDX cuts it more, what's the word, purposefully. And the CM just puts the perforation lines in. Right, so We're going to scan this in, and we're going to scan it in from here, and we're going to press start, and that's going to scan through. Now, doing this on a CM machine is very different, and I have done a video for that as well. So if you've stumbled across this one, but you really want the CM, there is another video that shows you exactly how to do it on there, because it is a different process. And it's a different process because the rollers, the back rollers inside the machine, don't lift on a CM machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is rotate this because it's in a different orientation than the reflection itself. So I'm going to go to Edit and Object Edit and Rotate. And I'm going to rotate it anti-clockwise by 90 degrees. So I'm then going to drag this over here. I'm going to position it roughly where I think it needs to go. And then I'm going to press OK and I'm going to zoom in. So I'm going to zoom right into 200% and then right into 400%. And then I can adjust this using my directional arrows. Just nudge it up, and I'm looking at the amount of bleed that's around this black line image, and I'm making sure that it looks even all the way around. Every time you nudge one of these spaces, it moves it by 0.5 millimeter, and that's actually quite a good thing to know anyway, especially when you're trying to line things up really precisely. I'm going to nudge it up a little bit more because I can see there it's slightly out. So I'm happy now with that. Right, now, if you're doing it with the foiling kit, you need to switch that on, your premium functions on in your settings. So inside your machine, you need to have switched on your premium functions and switched on the foiling one. And then what will happen when you press foil, it will ask you what level the glue's at. So you tell it you're doing the gluing. It will ask you what level of the glue is at on your pen, and you tell it on the screen, and then it will draw from the bottom up. However, because this is an SDX, you can lift the back rollers when you ask it to draw. So not foiling, just drawing. So what we're going to do is use that facility with our universal pen holder, because we don't need to kid it into thinking it's the foiling, because we don't need it to draw from the bottom up. And the reason we don't need it to do that is because we can lift those back rollers. So on a CM machine, you can't do that. And what Brother were concerned about was the fact that the static rollers would go through the glue and A, get glue on your rollers, which you really don't want to get, but B, it would also spread the glue through your artwork, which you don't want to get. So on the SDX, they've made it so that you can lift those back rollers. On the CM, you can only do it as the foiling function, and then it draws from the bottom up. So cleverly, they worked out how to make it work. So I'm going to do it with the draw function on here. So I'm going to take my blade out, and we're going to put our glue pen in our pen holder in a minute. But the first thing I want to do is go to Object to Edit and ungroup this. Yes, I'm going to ungroup it now. I just had a moment there where I thought, am I doing this right? But yes, I am. So we've got the outside edge here, and then we've got the detail inside. Now, I don't want it to foil the outside edge. I just want it to foil the detail. If you want it to foil both, then just foil the whole thing and then cut the whole thing. But I find that if you do it this way, it's nice to have the outside edge unfoiled and the detail foiled, so it looks like it's been touch foiled professionally. Right, so I'm going to save this onto my USB because I want to get rid of that outside edge. So as it sits right now, I'm going to save it. That's another reason why I've ungrouped it, because if I save it grouped, when I recall it, I can't ungroup it. So I'm going to press OK and keep going until I get to save. And I'm going to save it onto my USB. It's going to it's asked me if I want to overwrite the original one or create a new file, and I want to create a new file. And then it's given me file number 263. So I know that when I go back to my USB, that's the file that I need to use. So I'm going to press OK. And now what I'm going to do is delete that outside edge. And I know it's the outside edge because the outside edge will have a bigger select box around it than the detail. So if I just move it, you'll see the detail has a smaller rectangle and the outside edge has the larger rectangle. So I'm going to put that one in the bin and press OK. So now all I've got is those detail lines. So we're now going to put our glue pen into our holder. So I'm going to lay that down in there. I can see that there is enough glue here to complete what I want to do, because it doesn't use that much glue to just put that spot foiling on. However, if you're using the official foiling kit, so the full foiling kit, it will ask you to tell the number that the level of the glue is at. And if it's too low and there isn't enough glue for it to put down the glue on your image, it will tell you. It's that clever. So it's worth using well, in my opinion, it's much better if you use the official one, because it's got a really nice flow to it as well. I've tried the other ones, and personally, this is just my personal opinion, I believe that the Brother ones, they're made for purpose, aren't they? So I'm going to pop this into my universal pen holder, my smaller one, making sure that these little ridges here and here are facing the arrow that's going up there. I'm going to lift that grey bar and I'm going to twist it round and let it drop back into the little teeth that are here. And then I'm just going to tighten that top bit. So now that pen's in nice and sturdily. I'm going to drop that into where my blade housing goes, like so. And I'm going to drop this down. And just so that you know, all accessories, apart from, well, your basic accessories, so your universal pen holder, your foiling kit, your embossing kit, works with your SDX and CM. The mats don't, so just be aware of that. So all I'm going to do now is ask it to draw this. So when I go to please select and draw, I can go into here. I'm going to keep my speed, I'm going to take my speed down to 1. And I'm going to put my draw pressure up to 1. And the reason for that is I want it to go slowly so it has time to release that glue, which is a little bit of a different viscosity, if you like, to ink. So it lays it down nice and smoothly. So we'll probably fast forward through this bit because you don't need to sit there and watch that for a few minutes. And then we'll come back when it's finished gluing. So I'm going to press OK here. And then I'm going to press start. Now let me just think, there's nothing else I need to tell you before we start this. I don't think there is. So I'm now going to press start, and it's going to prompt me to lift the lever. The lever is on the side of your machine, and you're just going to lift it up to lever number 2. And the reason it does that is because then it's lifted those back rollers. So now we can draw it in the normal way, not asking it to draw from the bottom up. So all I'm going to do is press OK and start. And it's going to take 6 minutes, or up to 6 minutes. It might be 5 minutes and 1 second, but it will always give you the maximum time. So I'm just going to let it do its thing, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how you cut it and then how you foil it. Okay, so it's now finished gluing, which is great, so we can get on and do the next bit. So I'm going to take out the pen holder and the glue pen, and just make sure that when you do, that you put the lid straight back on the glue pen, because you don't want to dry it out. I'm going to pop that to one side. I'm going to press OK, and I'm just going to press home and get rid of that file because we saved it, remember? So I'm going to retrieve data from the USB. And it will be the file that I saved last, which I think is this one. Yep, and then I'm going to press OK. So I can see now that it clearly is still in exactly the same place because I haven't unloaded the mat. That's key. Once it's finished gluing, don't unload the mat, leave it where it is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the detail and just get it to cut around the outside edge. So make sure that you're checking that you're getting rid of the smallest rectangle, because that's the one with the detail, and press OK. And now we're going to cut this out. So personally, when I'm using the regular blade, when I'm doing something that is quite thin paper, which this is, it's like a 120, 140, I drop my cut pressure down just because I find that it's a little bit of a more gentle cut. And I also have my cut amount on 0.3. But if you're happy with your auto settings, absolutely. It's just that we'll all use different weights of papers. And it's not about the weight, it's about the density of the product, so what it's for as well. So all I'm going to do now is press cut and start, and it's telling me to attach the appropriate holder because I haven't put my blade back in. You see, you can't go wrong. I wish it could say, Heaton, you stupid, put the blade back in. But thank goodness it doesn't. Right, so I'm going to press OK now, and we're going to press start, and it's going to go and cut around the outside edge for us. We all do it, don't we? We all do it. I know. So let's see what this is like when it's cut out. So because I've still got those rollers lifted at the side, that glue isn't, that roller, those static rollers aren't going to go through that glue, which is exactly what we want. So don't drop the rollers back down to cut, just leave them up, and then we are good to go. It's exciting, isn't it? Now you will have to either leave the glue to dry naturally or use, I'm going to use a heat gun on a very low setting. I would advise you use a hairdryer, just because you can take it off the mat and then use your heat tool, but it's up to you. But don't use a really high heat tool on your mat because it's got adhesive on it and it will make that adhesive sticky, and then you might not get your piece of paper off the mat. So yeah, I have to tell you these things. Right, nearly there. And I love this idea because it's bringing an industry technique of spot foiling into your own home, which I think is fabulous. So I'm going to unload this now because we've finished. And actually I would say that glue is more or less dry, but I am just going to very quickly just blast it. And because I'm using a heat tool, I'm keeping it moving. So it's not like when you're embossing, it's just to get that dried off a little bit more than it was. Right, let's now get this off our mat. So I'm going to remove the outside edge first. So I've got a clear run at getting the rest of it off. So I'll move that one out of the way. I'm going to bring my tweezers in. And I'm very gently just going to work my way underneath here because these leaves are quite delicate. And I don't want it to split as I'm taking it off. So just be a little bit aware of where your shape attaches to the mat and at what point when you pull it does it start to lift. So I'm just going to pull this up and then going to work my way up and do this leaf. And I retacked this mat yesterday, so it's still a little bit fresh. But you can see now that we can take that off perfectly. I'm trying not to do what I've just done and touch the glue, but it is dry, so I think we're all right. And then what I'm going to do is take a piece of gold foil. Now you need a foil that will work with adhesive. And I'm using some foil that we had left over at Highlight Crafts. So if you're wondering, just try your foils, just get your foil and put a little bit of like red liner tape down, and if it sticks to it, then it's fine. Right, I'm just going to try and straighten out this cut a little bit more just by bending it backwards. Because I've pulled it off the mat, it's just trying to work a way around it. Right, so I'm going to position this over the top now, like that, and press that down firmly, and then press that down. I'm just making sure that I'm not creasing the cut underneath. So I'm going to lay that flat and then just something catching there. There it is, a little bit there. And it doesn't matter if the foil's already touched it because we can use all the waste bits of foil up anyway on other projects. So I'm just going to press this down nice and firmly like this, and also on the leaves, and just get into all those little areas, and you'll see the outline appear through your foil. And then if you want to, you can just take your scraper and just go in and give it a little burnish like this, and then we'll see what we've got. I just thought it was a nice little video to do for you to show that you can add foiling to your reflections. And it's not something necessarily that we would do on air because it takes a little while. So I just thought we'd do it as a separate video for you. So as I start to peel this off now, if you feel a little bit of resistance, it's just where the glue is slightly thicker. So just burnish it down, get that foil on top, which removes the tack of the glue, and then we can just peel it back. And if you've any bits that you think not quite there, just go in and just burnish it down again, because you can always go back over it. And then when we peel this off, we have got our reflection, you ready, that is foiled. How lovely is that, and even on those leaves, those fine lines are just being picked up perfectly. Isn't that just lovely? So now the detail lines, the detail cuts, you can do foil on any of them in the colour that you want with your glue pen and your universal pen holder. And I did use the slimmer one because it means the glue pen fits perfectly. But if you've got the regular one, you can tape it. Right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it and got a little bit of inspiration. And I can't wait to see what you do with yours. See you soon. Bye.